They called her Annalise. A porcelain doll, hand-painted, delicate, almost beautiful. But beauty fades fast, when it begins to move on its own. Over the decades, this doll has passed through 13 owners. Each one swore they heard her whisper. Each one vanished under strange circumstances. She was made in 1876, sealed in a child's coffin for reasons no one could explain. Every family who took her in believed they could handle her. Every one of them was wrong. Tonight, we uncover the real story, where she came from, what she's done, and the final footage that made authorities lock the case away for good. Stay until the end. Because the last person who saw her kept recording until something else picked up the camera. They say every doll is made with love. But love can turn into something else, something that refuses to let go. In the winter of 1876, in a small village just outside Yorkshire, a woman named Margaret Bellamy crafted a doll for her daughter, Annalise, a girl who never lived to see her 6th birthday. The child's death was sudden. Unexplained. Heartbroken, Margaret locked herself away for weeks. When she re-emerged, she carried this doll, pale as bone, dressed in her daughter's clothing, with eyes so clear they looked alive. According to local archives, Margaret refused to part with it. She spoke to it, sang lullabies to it, and left meals beside it. Neighbors recalled seeing candlelight through her window late at night, one shadow sitting, and one standing. When she died, the doll was found beside her body, untouched by dust, as if it had been waiting. Over a century later, the doll surfaced again, this time in a private estate auction. No one knew its history. It was sold for the equivalent of $25 to a collector who thought it was a charming antique. Within days, the buyer reached out to the seller, claiming that the doll's eyes moved when he turned off the lights. 2 weeks later, he deleted his account and vanished. His payment was still pending. Since then, the doll has changed hands multiple times, estate sales, thrift shops, online auctions. Each time, the seller leaves no return address. Each time, it arrives without warning, in another city, another home. Most people say it's just a story, one of those things you tell around Halloween. But ask anyone who's seen her eyes follow the light, and you'll get a very different answer. Would you dare bring a doll like this into your home? Comment below, yes or no. In 1932, the doll found its way into the hands of a little girl named Eliza Montgomery, who lived with her parents in a quiet countryside home on the outskirts of Kent. It was a modest life, wooden floors that creaked under every step, a small garden out back, and an attic that smelled of dust and pine. Her father bought the doll from a traveling vendor, saying it would make a fine birthday gift. On the morning of her 6th birthday, Eliza unwrapped the package to find it, a porcelain doll dressed in faded lace, its painted lips slightly parted, as though about to speak. Her mother remembered the way Eliza smiled, and the way that smile faded the moment she touched it. But children get frightened easily, she thought. And by evening, Eliza was cradling the doll as if it were a friend. The first few nights were uneventful, just the quiet rhythm of rain on the window panes. Then came the whispers. Faint, at first. A woman's voice, low and rhythmic, speaking in a language no one recognized. The sound always came from Eliza's room. And every time her parents rushed in, the room fell silent, except for the faint music box tune coming from nowhere they could trace. Eliza began to change. She stopped playing with her friends. She spoke to the doll constantly, sometimes laughing, sometimes whispering, as though being comforted, or warned. When her mother asked who she was talking to, Eliza simply said, "She doesn't like sunlight. It hurts her eyes." From that day, she refused to let anyone open her curtains. The doll remained at her side, always dressed neatly, always facing the same direction, toward the door. Her father, growing worried, took the doll one afternoon and placed it in the cupboard, locking it away. That night, the lock broke. The next morning, the doll was back in Eliza's bed, its head turned slightly, as if watching the doorway. By the third week, things escalated. Dishes fell from shelves. Doors slammed without wind. At night, her parents heard soft footsteps pacing the hall, bare feet on wood. When they opened Eliza's door, they found her sitting upright, wide-eyed, clutching the doll to her chest. Her pupils barely moved. Her breathing was slow, measured, like something was listening through her. The final night came without warning. Her mother woke to the sound of the music box playing again, but this time, the tune was different. Slower. Dragged out, as if someone was winding it in reverse. She rushed to Eliza's room. The window was open, the curtains torn down. Eliza sat on the bed, motionless, doll in her arms. Her eyes open, her lips trembling but silent. She never spoke again after that night. Doctors called it a state of shock. But her mother swore she heard Eliza whisper one last thing before falling silent. She said she wants to stay. The family sealed the doll in a wooden box and buried it deep in the attic, praying never to hear from it again. But that wasn't where it stayed. In 1978, the doll surfaced again, this time at a quiet estate auction in northern England. Among the dusty furniture and old family heirlooms, it sat unnoticed at first, tucked in a small wooden chest lined with red velvet. The auctioneer described it simply as a handcrafted Victorian toy. No one bid, until a local antique dealer named Thomas Collins raised his hand. Collins ran a small antique shop near the coast. A place filled with ticking clocks, porcelain figurines, and the smell of varnish and age. He prided himself on restoring forgotten pieces of history. But this one was different. The doll's eyes seemed clearer than glass. Its skin, though cracked, looked almost warm to the touch. When he brought it home, he placed it on the counter by the window, a simple display to draw attention. That night, he locked up as usual, turned off the lights, and left. The next morning, the doll was no longer facing the window. It was turned toward the back of the shop. Thinking nothing of it, he adjusted it back. But it happened again. And again. Every morning, the doll's position had changed. Sometimes by an inch. Sometimes by feet. On the fourth night, he decided to test it. He set up a small film camera, an old Super 8 he used to monitor inventory. When he watched the footage the next morning, the tape was blank. But when he rewound it, faint frames appeared, shadows shifting near the counter, shelves rattling slightly, the outline of something standing behind him after he'd closed for the night. Days passed. Customers began to complain. A woman who bought a clock from him returned 2 days later, pale, shaking. She said she heard crying in her house at night. She swore it came from the clock, until she realized the sound echoed louder when the doll was near. Collins tried to sell it 3 times. Each time, the buyer brought it back. One man claimed the doll had moved from his mantel to the foot of his bed overnight. Another said it whispered his name in the dark. By the end of the month, Collins was exhausted. The shop's power flickered often, radios tuned themselves to static, and something began scratching the wooden counter, tiny marks that spelled nothing but felt intentional. He stayed late one evening, determined to confront whatever was happening. The camera was rolling. The time-stamp read 2:43 a.m. The footage shows Collins walking into frame, his voice low, trembling, saying, "I don't know what you want from me." He stops, looks past the camera, his face frozen in shock. His hand rises as though trying to shield himself. Then the lights go out. The camera flickers, freezes on one frame, and cuts to static. The next morning, police arrived after neighbors reported the shop doors still locked but the lights flickering inside. They found the shop empty. No sign of struggle. No sign of Collins. The camera lay shattered on the floor. And sitting on the counter, where he'd always kept it, was the doll. Head tilted upward, one cracked hand extended, palm open. His body was never found. But in the reflection of the shop's display glass, investigators swore they saw someone standing beside the doll. A man. Watching. In 1995, the doll found its way into the hands of researchers at the National Museum of Paranormal Artifacts, a small, privately funded institution known for housing objects connected to unexplained phenomena. The acquisition came quietly, with no public announcement. But inside the museum walls, something began to change almost immediately. According to staff records, the doll was placed inside a sealed glass display case in Gallery Room 3, under controlled temperature and constant surveillance. Cameras were installed to record movement around the clock. For the first few nights, the footage showed nothing unusual. Just the soft flicker of the emergency exit sign reflecting off the glass. By the end of the first week, visitors began to report discomfort, unexplained nausea, headaches, and a faint ringing in their ears that stopped the moment they left the room. Several described hearing laughter, soft and distant, though no children were present. One woman fainted after claiming the doll blinked. Curators initially dismissed it as suggestion, a trick of the mind fed by the artifact's reputation. But then the staff began hearing things too. At closing hours, when the galleries were empty, the intercom picked up faint voices whispering names, the names of the staff on duty. Security guards refused to patrol alone. 2 resigned within a month, claiming the doll's eyes moved whenever they passed by. One guard wrote in his exit report, "It knows when you're looking. It knows when you're alone." The museum director ordered the footage reviewed. And there, on tape, they found it. At 3:17 a.m., the camera caught the doll's head turning. Slowly. Deliberately. Following the movement of a cleaner sweeping across the opposite end of the hall. No one entered the room. No wires. No vibration strong enough to cause the movement. Over the next 2 nights, more footage appeared, tiny shifts in the doll's posture, its dress moving slightly though the case remained sealed. A technician reported the glass fogging from the inside, as if something breathed against it. Then came the night of the blackout. The museum lost power for 12 minutes. When the lights returned, the alarms in Gallery Room 3 were silent. The display case was shattered, broken outward. Small fragments of glass littered the floor in a perfect circle. And the doll was gone. The police found no signs of forced entry. No fingerprints. No evidence of theft. Just a single footprint near the case, bare, small, and child-sized. For 13 years, there were no reports. No sightings. The museum sealed the room and closed the exhibit permanently. But every year, on the anniversary of the blackout, the security alarms in Gallery Room 3 still trigger, exactly at 3:17 a.m. And no one can explain why. For 13 years, there was silence. No trace. No sightings. Until one cold February morning in 2008, a video surfaced on YouTube titled "The Cursed Doll Found in an Abandoned Church." The channel belonged to a young urban explorer known online as Daniel Shaw, a 26-year-old filmmaker obsessed with forgotten places and lost history. His videos rarely exceeded a few hundred views. But that night, everything changed. The video begins with him entering the remains of St. Margaret's Church, a structure left in ruin since the 1960s. The walls were cracked, the altar collapsed, and water dripped endlessly from the broken ceiling. His breath fogs in the cold as he descends into the basement, his camera light shaking with each step. At the 2-minute mark, the camera catches it. A small object sitting in the center of the room, half buried in dust and debris. A porcelain doll, its face chipped, one glass eye missing, and the other still staring directly into the lens. The same dress. The same cracks. The same stitched mouth that had been described in the museum's report. Daniel laughs nervously, muttering that he's seen worse things in thrift stores. He sets the camera down to adjust his flashlight. For 3 seconds, the lens faces the floor. When he picks it up again, the doll has moved, just slightly, its head tilted toward him. He doesn't notice. He places the doll into his bag, joking that he'll show the internet this creepy find. The video ends abruptly as he exits the basement. It's uploaded later that night and quickly gains traction, viewers claiming they felt uneasy while watching, others swearing they heard breathing through their speakers. 3 days later, new clips began appearing on his channel. Unannounced. Short. Erratic. Each under 15 seconds long. One showed the doll sitting on a table while distorted audio, like reversed speech, played underneath. Another showed Daniel pacing in darkness, whispering words too low to decipher. And in the last clip, the frame flickers violently before a screen cuts through and the screen turns black. Forum users across the web dissected the videos frame by frame. In one, they claimed to see the faint reflection of a woman standing behind the doll, a pale figure, barely visible, with hands resting on its shoulders. Some viewers reported losing sound entirely when the reflection appeared, as if their devices muted themselves at that exact moment. By the end of the week, the channel vanished. No notice. No backup files. No traces on the platform. Only fragments of the original videos remained, reposted by users who had downloaded them before deletion. Authorities traced the upload location to Daniel's apartment in Bristol. When police arrived, the door was locked from the inside. His belongings were untouched. His camera, missing. Neighbors reported hearing a strange tune the night before he disappeared. A lullaby. The same melody that played from the museum's music box, the same one described by Eliza's family nearly 80 years earlier. Investigators later found one final clue, a single still image left in Daniel's computer drive. The photo was dark, almost unreadable, but after digital enhancement, it revealed the outline of the doll sitting upright on his desk. And reflected faintly in its one remaining glass eye was Daniel. Standing behind the camera. Smiling. After that, no one ever heard from him again. After Daniel's disappearance, the internet filled with theories, darker and stranger than ever before. Some claimed the doll wasn't just cursed, it was alive. Others dug through old archives, tracing its origins back to 1842, to a small village where a woman named Margaret Ashcroft lost her daughter, Clara, to a sudden fever. According to village records, Margaret was a seamstress, known for crafting dolls so lifelike they were said to breathe when you weren't looking. Neighbors reported that after Clara's death, Margaret locked herself away for days. When she finally reappeared, she carried a small porcelain doll wrapped in her child's blanket, a doll that wore Clara's favorite dress. One of her surviving letters, found decades later, contained a chilling line, "She's here with me again. She whispers at night so I don't forget her voice." That line fueled the most disturbing theory of all, that the doll was made using Clara's real hair and baby teeth. Forensic examination of old photographs suggests the strands embedded in its scalp were genuine human hair. Some even claim the glaze used on its porcelain face contained traces of bone ash, possibly from a human source. Over time, whispers grew darker. It was said that Margaret didn't just make the doll, she performed a ritual to bind her daughter's soul inside it. a ritual forbidden even in early spiritualist circles. She wanted to preserve Clara forever, but instead, she created something that fed on grief, attention, and memory itself. Those who studied the case noticed a pattern. Wherever the doll resurfaced, tragedy followed. The girl in the 1930s who went silent. The shopkeeper who vanished in 1978. The curator who left the museum after the blackout. Daniel Shaw, the YouTuber. All connected by one thing, the doll being seen again. Talked about. Remembered. Some paranormal researchers believe the doll feeds on attention. That it only exists when it's being thought of, spoken of, or watched. In other words, the more people know about it, the stronger it becomes. A chilling superstition began circulating online, shared across Reddit threads and paranormal forums. If you dream of her face 3 nights in a row, she finds you. Those who claim to have dreamt of her described the same image, a little girl in the corner of a dark room, holding a broken doll. But on the 3rd night, the doll's face is replaced by their own. And when they wake up, something always feels off. The mirror fogged. The music box playing by itself. The sound of small feet crossing the floor. Would you keep watching, if this doll was in your room right now? In 2020, after 13 years of silence, the doll resurfaced. It appeared in a private auction hosted online by a collectors network known for trading haunted artifacts. Among the bidders was Evan Hale, a 27-year-old content creator and horror enthusiast from Chicago. He ran a small YouTube channel dedicated to exploring creepy legends and haunted objects. Evan won the doll for just $45. The seller described it as an authentic Victorian doll, slightly damaged, found among church debris. There was no mention of its past, but within days of unboxing it, his subscribers started noticing something strange. In his first upload, titled "Unboxing the Haunted Doll Nobody Dares to Keep," Evan laughs off the curse. He places the doll on a shelf behind him, smiling as he reads creepy comments from viewers. Everything seems harmless, at first. Then came the second video. His demeanor had changed. He seemed tired, distracted. He mentioned waking up to find the doll facing the opposite direction. He joked about it moving on its own, but the laugh didn't reach his eyes. By the 3rd upload, he said he'd started hearing things. The sound of soft knocking, always 3 times. Once at 3:12 a.m. He even played a clip from his night recording. He tried to brush it off. But the viewers didn't. Some left comments claiming they saw a reflection in the dark window behind him. A woman's silhouette. Pale face. Empty eyes. His next video was different. No intro. No jokes. The title simply read, "I think she's moving." The footage was shaky, Evan breathing heavily, the camera pointing toward his hallway. You could hear the faint creak of the floorboards, then the door behind him slowly opened by itself. He whispered into the lens, voice trembling, "It's just me and her. I keep hearing her walk around at night." He sets the doll on the table, and the music box from earlier starts playing on its own. The same tune recorded in every previous incident tied to the doll. For 3 days, there were no updates. Then, one final upload appeared. Titled simply, "She's Here." The video begins with Evan whispering into the camera. The room is completely dark except for the faint red recording light. He says, "I keep hearing her name. Clara. She won't stop saying it." He breathes heavily, turns the camera toward the corner of the room. For a split second, you can see the doll standing upright on its own, though no one is touching it. Its glass eyes gleam in the dark. Evan gasps, drops the camera. The image jolts sideways. The last thing recorded is his whisper. Then, static. The police were called 3 days later, after subscribers flooded his comments section, demanding answers. When officers entered Evan's apartment, the lights were still on. The camera was still recording. But Evan was gone. The doll sat on the floor near the doorway, facing the camera lens. Its cracked lips slightly open, as if smiling. When the footage from Evan Hale's apartment was finally reviewed, authorities treated it like any other missing person case. But what they found in his recordings didn't fit any known explanation. The official police notes described the apartment as undisturbed. No signs of forced entry. No footprints other than Evan's. Yet, in every time-stamped frame of the footage, the doll's position keeps changing. In one still frame, it's seated on a chair. 2 minutes later, standing in the hallway. Another clip shows it lying on the kitchen counter, head turned toward the lens. But the time gaps are seconds apart. There's no visible movement. Just, placement, shifted. After analyzing the video, investigators assumed it was edited. But when the metadata was examined, every frame was confirmed authentic. The footage was disturbing, but inconclusive. We didn't find any tampering. There were no hidden wires or animatronics. But the doll, it was cold to the touch. Ice cold. Like something that hadn't been alive for a very long time. A week later, the case reached a local paranormal investigation team, the Blacklight Society. They requested access to Evan's apartment for an independent review. We set up audio recorders, motion sensors, and thermal cameras. Within hours, we began hearing faint tapping. Then, whispering. The name Evan repeated. The temperature dropped from 72 to 54 degrees in less than a minute. The doll's head turned during our session, by itself. And we caught it, on film. The footage she described never reached the public. The researchers withdrew their findings, citing ethical concerns and refusing further comment. But online, the theories only multiplied. Some claimed the doll was cursed by design, feeding on electronic energy, thriving in the digital age through views, attention, and screens. Others said it was simply a psychological phenomenon, a reflection of mass hysteria. But what came next was harder to dismiss. Images began circulating across forums and social media, screenshots, vacation selfies, even live stream backgrounds. In each one, a small porcelain doll appeared, blurred, half-lit, never in the same position twice. The owners swore they didn't own any doll. Some even deleted their accounts, claiming the figure moved closer in every photo they took. One viral post showed the doll sitting behind a couple in their anniversary photo. They had no idea it was there, until commenters pointed it out. A week later, their account went inactive. Experts still debate what's real and what's digital illusion. Psychologists say it's collective paranoia. But others, those who've studied the legend, believe the doll is still out there, watching through the very screens we use to look for her. Experts claim it's psychological. Others say she's still looking for her next owner. For years, the story of the haunted doll faded into rumor. A ghost story whispered on message boards and forgotten Reddit threads. But last month, something strange happened. An anonymous user posted a new listing on a private collectibles site. No name, no description, just a single photo of a porcelain doll in a cracked glass case. The title read simply, Victorian Keepsake, $13. Within minutes, curious users began clicking the link. Some claimed their screens flickered. Others said their browsers froze entirely, displaying a single white page, just the image of the doll, staring back. Several people took screenshots before the post vanished. Each one showed the same image, but the doll's position was never quite the same. In one, her head was tilted left. In another, the eyes were looking directly into the lens. Then, the listing was deleted. No record, no username, no trace in the site's archives. Hours later, users began posting strange accounts. One wrote that their webcam light turned on by itself after viewing the listing. Another said they woke up to the sound of a music box playing faintly from their laptop. Dozens of posts flooded forums. Anyone else's screen froze when they clicked the link. I saw her blink. I heard knocking from my speakers. Then, the final discovery, one user traced the IP location of the auction listing. It wasn't from another country, or a random city server. The listing came from a small suburban town in Illinois. The same town where Evan Hale vanished 5 years earlier. Some believe it was a hoax. A digital recreation of the legend to stir fear. But others noticed something that couldn't be explained away. When the screenshots were analyzed, metadata revealed an embedded watermark, almost invisible. It read, Clara_1842. The same year the doll was first created. After that, every thread discussing the auction was deleted. Entire forum chains gone. Even cached versions were erased from search engines. It was as if the internet itself tried to bury her again. But this time, she didn't disappear completely. Several users reported receiving strange emails titled, "Thank you for your purchase." No attachments. No sender ID. Just one line in the message body. Delivery in progress. And the chilling part? Each of those emails traced back to the same IP address. Evan's old apartment. Was it a hoax? A haunting? Or something else entirely, something that's found a way to move through us now, through screens, through memory? 2 weeks after the auction vanished, a single file surfaced online. It was uploaded anonymously to a paranormal subreddit. The file name read, footage_recovered_eh.mp4. It was only 8 seconds long. Grainy. Blurred. The footage appeared to show a dimly lit room, walls lined with cardboard boxes, a single doll sitting on the floor. At first, nothing moves. Just that, unbearable stillness. But halfway through, the frame twitches. The static jumps. And if you watch closely, very closely, you'll see it. Her eyes blink. Some said it was doctored. Others slowed it down frame by frame, and swore the movement was real. A twitch of the eyelids. A subtle shift in the head. A faint smile forming just before the clip ends. But here's what no one could explain. Metadata from the video revealed that it was recorded only 3 weeks ago. And the location tag? Whoever filmed it was standing in the same living room where Evan disappeared. Then the file vanished again. Deleted from every platform. But not before thousands of people had already watched it, shared it, saved it. If this doll truly feeds on attention, maybe watching these videos, watching this video, is what keeps her alive. So if you've made it this far, maybe you've already fed her. Would you dare watch it again? Or have you already seen her move? Comment below. I survived the doll, if you made it this far. And to this day, no one dares to keep her. If this story gave you chills, hit like, and subscribe for more tales they wish you'd never hear.